story is from the north of Scotland, from the islands of Orkney and Shetland. And I first read this story some years ago, and it's from a book by Tom Muir, who is a famous Arcadian storyteller. And he wrote this book called Tales of Viking Lands. So once upon a time on the island of Shetland, there lived a couple in a croft, and they just started their family. And their firstborn child was angelic and beautiful, and they named him Johnny. And while the husband was out tending the sheep on the croft one summer's day, the mother left the child in the cottage to go and collect some water from the well. And when she returned, the child was changed. Gone was little Johnny, the angelic, beautiful child, and in his place was a scrawny, yowling monster of a child. Where went the child? And the couple couldn't believe the transformation of their beautiful child to this dreadful, dreadful monster that sat in the cot and wailed and never seemed to grow, but seemed to eat like a horse all the time. And gradually, well, the little child took their toll on the parents, and they grew skinny and scrawny and tired of looking after this child the whole time. Anyway, one day a fair and market came to town, and the couple decided that they would love to go and take a little break away from looking after the baby. So they asked their neighbour, a friendly tailor, whether he would mind coming and babysitting. And, being a kindly gent, he agreed, as long as he could bring some of his work with him. He was sewing a pair of trousers at the time. So all was agreed, and on the allotted day, the tailor dum on the door, and was let in and introduced to the baby. Wah, wah, went the baby. Well, the tailor, being a calm, gentle character, sat down by the fire, peat roaring on the fire as usual, and started to sew his trousers. And the couple left, dressed in their finery, for the market and the fair that awaited them. Once they'd gone, the tailor heard a voice. Caw! Have they gone? Did they go? Open the door. Nobody at the door, and so he sat back down at the fire. Now, age can do that sort of thing to you, and it makes you hear voices. And on he went, sewing his trousers. Oi! Oi! Did they go or not? And this time the tailor looked towards where he'd heard the voice, and there, sat up in the cot, with his hands tightly gripping the edge, was the baby, scrawny, angry looking. God, he said, I thought we'd never get rid of them. Anyway, good. Now, up there, in the cupboard, right at the back, you find a bottle of whiskey. Why don't you get it out and bring some glasses? And so the tailor obliged, went to the cupboard, found the bottle of whiskey, arranged 2 glasses, poured them both atop. The tailor sipped, whilst of course the baby knocked it straight back. Whoa, yeah, that's better, said the baby. I was getting a bit parched. Why don't we have another one? So the tailor obliged and poured 2 more glasses, and again the baby knocked it back. What we need, said the baby, is some music. Why don't you pop in the barn and get me a cornstalk, and I'll sort us out some tunes. So the tailor obliged, walked off into the barn, fetched a long cornstalk, gave it to the baby. Baby snapped it to the length that he wanted, bored some holes, and started to play it like a penny whistle. Oof, they were good tunes as well. And as the afternoon wore on, the whiskey bottle started to get a bit lower, and the tailor really enjoyed himself. At some point, the baby noticed his parents pass outside the window, and quick as you like, threw the cornstalk on the fire, laid back down in the cot, and started to yowl again. Wah, wah. The tailor replaced the bottle of whiskey and sat sewing his trousers. When the parents came in, the tailor suggested that they have a conference in the barn to talk about their day at the fair. And so they all went into the barn, where the tailor told them what had happened and the afternoon he'd had drinking whiskey and listening to music and talking to the baby. Well, the parents said, that can't be. That's impossible. Our little bundle of joy can't speak. Said the tailor. So here's a plan. When we go back in, you say to me that tomorrow the fair is still on and you need to go and finish your business there. In the morning, get dressed into your finest clothes as you're dressed now, and I shall come round and we shall repeat what has happened today. But rather than go to the fair, you watch by the window and you will see. And so it was agreed. And the next day, the tailor, tomp, tomp, tomp on the door. The parents are dressed in their finery, ready to go to the fair, and they left. And the tailor sat down by the fire, sewing the trousers that he was still making. When the parents had gone, the baby sat up in the cot. "Wow, brilliant! Second day. Go on, you get the whiskey out." The tailor obliged, took the whiskey from the bottle, from the cupboard, set 2 glasses, poured them out, and the parents watched, bewildered, from the window. They arrived back, pretended to arrive back, and the baby lay back down in the cot, tossed the cornstalk again into the fire, lay back down in the cot, and started to wah, wah, wah again. So the tailor took the parents out back into the barn for yet another conference. "I can't understand it," said the father. "We haven't left him alone for a moment." "Ah," said the mother. "Well, there was this one time that I did actually leave him alone in the cottage while I went and drew some water from the well." "Oh," said the tailor. And he explained that on the Orkney Islands and on Shetland, sometimes when a baby is left alone in a cottage, a trow, fairy folk from Orkney and Shetland, may come and swap the baby for a changeling. And this is what has happened. The tailor went on. "In order to get your baby back, follow my instructions. Pretend to make some ale. Changelings like ale. But rather than make it in the usual way, take 3 small halves of eggshells, and pretend to make the ale in these eggshells by the fire. Should the changeling present itself as a trow, toss him straight on the fire and see what happens. Your child will be returned." The parents took note of what the tailor said, and the tailor went on his way, staggering a little bit. He had had two days on the whiskey, so it was a bit. The next morning, the mother said to the father, "I'm going to spend the day making ale, as summer is upon us and the harvest will need to be brought in. So I shall make some ale for those who will come and help us with the harvest." Fantastic. She took 3 empty eggshells, put them by the fire, poured a little water into them, and added a little barley. The baby by now had stopped crying and was looking astonished, sat up in the cot and looked at the mother and said, "Well, do you know what? I have never seen anything like this. I have seen an acorn turn into an oak, but I have never seen ale brewed in an eggshell before." And at once the mother grabbed the baby, the changeling, threw him on the fire, and the changeling disappeared up into the chimney in a flash of blue smoke. At the same time, there was a knock at the door. Douche, douche, douche. When the mother opened the door, there was her baby waiting for her on the doorstep, none the wiser and absolutely fine. Hmm, what do you make of that one?